What?
What on earth?
Oh!
Koopas, and then police state written in blocks.
Okay.
Super Mario Maker is a triumph of game design.
Save the Yoshi.
Save the Yoshis to clear the stage.
Wait for it.
I don't say that lightly. It's hardly the first or even the most fully featured level creator. The truly special thing that Mario Maker did was to make building things fun. It's the lesson that made Minecraft a runaway success as people built these elaborate castles and towns and underground wonderlands. It's the lesson that led people to literally learn rocket science playing Kerbal Space Program, rapidly iterating on hundreds of failed rocket designs. Little Big Planet is the game most directly comparable to Mario Maker, but for all its childlike philosophy about the creativity inside us all, it failed to spark the imaginations of the vast majority of its players. It offered a complex set of tools that resulted in a tremendous variety of imaginative designs, but that very complexity ensured that only a small percentage of players would ever devote themselves to creating. Mario Maker's simple, intuitive tools managed to make building levels as much fun as playing them. But it's not the first time fans have been able to create their own Mario levels. Now, this tradition goes back years, and it's been around almost as long as Mario himself at this point. On this episode of World 1, we take a look at what it was like making Mario before Mario Maker.
3, 2, 1.
Today, games are built using specialized graphical toolsets, not entirely unlike Mario Maker's interface, though obviously with fewer bits of cute flair. Once a game's underlying engine has been built, the next step is typically to create a tool that allows designers to quickly create levels and events within that engine. A good example of this kind of tool is the sort of editors Bethesda used to include with many of their games like Fallout and The Elder Scrolls. These are very clearly tools rather than games, but they allow designers to see the world as they're creating it. But things weren't always so simple. Nintendo designer Takashi Tezuka, who worked on the original Super Mario Bros., explains.
Back in the day, we had to create everything by hand. To design courses, we would actually draw them one at a time onto these sheets of graph paper. We'd then hand our drawings to the programmers, who would code them into a build.
Programming NES games was a laborious process, which involved directly manipulating specific points of the hardware's memory, and it's only because of the relative simplicity of the system and the limitations of the hardware that this process was possible at all. Another result of this simplicity is that it's possible for modern computers to display the code while running the game itself. By isolating individual parts of the code and watching for variables that change as the game progresses, inquisitive programmers can reverse engineer what are essentially the building blocks of these classic games.
Yes, there's our full track course. Okay, cool. So I'm going to walk back in here. I'm going to do that same trick where we swap this register so that we teleport into the 9th dungeon.
And once you figured out what those building blocks are, you can start to reshape them and make the game your own. It's a trivial matter to, say, freeze your character's health, making you essentially invincible. But you can go much deeper than that. What about changing your character, your abilities, or even the makeup of the game world itself? The end result, these hacked-together creations are called ROM hacks, because they modify the code stored in the read-only memory chip inside a game cartridge. Because these hacks are made using emulators instead of actual hardware, the code can actually be written to a programmable ROM chip, soldered to a board in an actual cartridge, and played on the real original consoles. Obviously, deconstructing and reprogramming old cartridges is an expensive, labor-intensive process, so ROM hacks are mainly made and played on modern computers running digital versions of old hardware. But these hacks are functionally identical to brand new games on classic hardware. I mean, is there a meaningful difference between the fan-made Super Mario Bros. Rebirth and the original Nintendo-developed Super Mario Bros. 2? Both are sequels to the classic NES game that take pieces of the original to create new levels and challenges. And new levels are just the tip of the iceberg. Some of the earliest hacks you can find were done by pirate groups, swapping Mario's sprite into other games to make a quick buck. You might not have known that Wario got his start as a software pirate before moving into the microgame business. One of my personal favorites is an NES version of Super Mario World that's both impressive in scope and completely abysmal in execution. The hacks built by fans tend to be far more impressive. A lot of them lack good level design or cohesion, though I have to admit replacing Toad with Barney Rubble is a pretty inspired choice. Others just feel like brand new Mario levels with well-designed courses that are challenging without being unfair. And there are still more hacks that go above and beyond even that. Extra Mario Bros. Reimagines Mario's level progression as a non-linear Metroid-style adventure. It adds a ton of new mechanics like checkpoints, switches, and blocks that send you flying. It's built out of a brand new set of sprites. But while these NES hacks are impressive, it's once we move to the Super Nintendo that things get really interesting. Hacks for Super Mario World in particular took off not just because it's a great game and maybe the best in the series, but because a number of level editing tools were developed that made creation far quicker and easier than ever before. The most famous of these is called Lunar Magic. Built as a lark way back in 2000, Lunar Magic is a big part of why Mario World begat such a vibrant hacking community. It's a fully graphical tool that lets you drag and drop enemies and items wherever you please and patch those changes back into a ROM on the fly. You can remix levels from the game or build entirely new creations. It's honestly a lot like Mario Maker, though nearly 15 years older. Super Demo World, the game made by Lunar Magic's creator, Fuso Ya, does a solid job of showing what the tool is capable of. Fully original Mario World levels indistinguishable from the real thing. New types of objects with properties not seen in the original game. The ability to make your own unique world maps, which, by the way, is something we still can't do in Mario Maker. Hacks like Brutal Mario would pull in graphics from other games, putting a new look and feel on Mario World's basic gameplay. Others, like the Second Reality Project, would go even further by featuring original artwork and music. One of the most fully featured hacks is Super Mario Omega, built by Andrew Higsby. It features 7 worlds and 70 levels with a multitude of hidden exits. In a Playboy interview, Higsby said, "What you see in Super Mario Omega is really just the buildup of all that inspiration and creativity that I've experienced in other video games that I've played." Maybe the most famous ROM hack is Kaizo Mario, or as the 5 million view video calls it, Asshole Mario. The story goes that this one Japanese guy named R. Kiba was so good at Mario that his friend, a ROM hacker named T. Takamoto, wanted to put his skills to the ultimate test. Now, nobody seems to actually know who Kiba or Takamoto are, and their only legacy is this hack, so let's just call them the Homer of Mario ROM hacks. In any case, the end result is this nightmarish gauntlet of pixel-perfect jumps, invisible coin blocks, and munchers. Lots and lots of munchers. The challenge has since been solved and the world record speedrun is now under 15 minutes, but this was the first inkling many people had of what ROM hacks are capable of. Alex Tan, better known as Pangaea Panga, took difficult levels even further. His levels are so reliant on the precise execution of minor bugs in Mario World's code that they can't even be completed by human hands. No, successfully completing a level like Item Abuse 3 means writing an immensely complicated series of input instructions to be used by the computer itself. It took the creator himself over 3 years to both create and complete. Penga has also completed Mario World in under 30 minutes while blindfolded. And now he's working in Mario Maker, so watch out. U-Break, his malevolent masterpiece, has only 43 clears of nearly 1.5 million attempts. One of the ironies of comparing ROM hacks to Mario Maker levels is that while the hacks are modifications of the original games, Mario Maker, the official Nintendo product, is a new game in a new engine that doesn't actually share its DNA with the classics. Building a game from the ground up to be about level creation allows much greater flexibility and ease of use for those on the creation end, but fans beat Nintendo to the punch even here. In 2009, Andrew Spinks, who at the time went by the screen name Redigit, quietly released a fan game called Super Mario Bros. X. It was, like Lunar Magic, a fully graphical Mario level editor, but built on a completely new engine that had nothing to do with the original game ROMs. This meant that you could test and play levels as you were making them, and freely mix and match elements from different games, all with an impressive imitation of the feel of the originals. By 2011, Spinks had moved on to work on Terraria, which despite its obvious comparisons to Minecraft, feels more like a natural extension of X's platforming mechanics and do-it-yourself attitude. Even if he hadn't already moved on to commercial projects, Spinks' hand would have been forced regardless, as it's around this time that Nintendo's lawyers came a-callin'.
We would like to play.
A community member quoted Spinks after the incident. Last Friday, I received a call from Nintendo's lawyers asking me to remove Super Mario Bros. X from the site and delete all SMBX videos from my YouTube account. They also asked me to transfer SuperMarioBrothers.org over to them. While fans of the project tried to band together to keep X alive, it doesn't seem that Spinks was at liberty to release the project's source code. Now, several years later, people have made enough progress on the game to be teasing a full 2.0 release, but the original development is long dead. SuperMarioBrothers.org currently redirects to Nintendo's official Mario site. Other similar projects have faced the same kind of legal issues. Super Mario Remaker was a very recent fan project to bring the game to PC. It was barely more than a prototype by the time it had been reported on by mainstream gaming sites, and Nintendo extinguished the project by the time its 15 minutes of fame were even up. This tweet by the game's teenage creator probably says it all. Mario Remaker was a mistake. So what drives these creators? Making games, whether by hacking or from scratch, is a very difficult process. And because these works are derivative of copyrighted originals, their creators will never see a penny of profit from them, and in fact face takedown notices and potential litigation under our modern restrictive copyright laws.
FBI, they're coming in.
Sir, we've had reports of hacking activities coming from this address. You need to come with us.
Guys, it's not illegal. It's just a game.
In 2014, Double Fine released Hack and Slash, a game based around project lead Brandon Dillon's experience hacking the original Legend of Zelda through emulators. In the game's development blog, he wrote, "I've always loved games with lots of secrets in them, and when I first discovered a hex editor in an emulator, it dawned on me that I could be a kind of digital treasure hunter. No game could keep its deepest secrets from me if I adventured long enough in its code and memory." That spirit is what drove his own game years later.
Well, I mean, this is a lot about what Hack and Slash is about, is, taking a game that presents itself as one way and then basically taking it and making it your own, customizing it to not necessarily, improve the game, but make it more about what you want it to be and what you understand it to be. It's one thing to beat a game, it's another thing altogether to understand the game well enough to be able to hack it. It's its own kind of mastery. It's a very rewarding thing.
The idea of mastery is a very powerful one, especially to those who play games. There's the mastery of beating a game, or conquering its most difficult challenges, or exploring every nook of its world. But beyond that, there's the mastery of understanding on a very fundamental level how the game works.
But to answer that, we need to talk about parallel universes.
This ridiculous, amazing video blew the collective minds of the Nintendo 64 generation with its incredible breakdown of the underlying physics of Super Mario 64. As a consequence of how Mario's position is calculated in-game, there are a theoretically infinite number of invisible parallel universes that exist alongside the world we see in-game. Because the interactivity of games often leads us to feel that we inhabit game worlds rather than observe them, at least in the moment of play, this was basically the same as somebody telling us not only the specifics of how quantum mechanics operate in the real world, but how to use that knowledge to travel between dimensions. With this kind of understanding, suddenly we don't just have mastery over abilities and geographical knowledge, we have mastery over entire worlds. And with that mastery comes the ability to reshape those worlds in any way we want. So next time you fire up Mario Maker, take a moment to think of the ROM hackers who came before. After all, we're playing with building blocks while they were reconstructing universes. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, be sure to hit like and subscribe so more wonderful folks like yourself can find it. I'm Dustin Bailey, and I'll see you again soon.